This winter has been one of the hardest winters we've had in a long time. It has affected everyone, including those in the franchise business, those in the food industry, the travel industry, grocery industry, and one we all know, the Education Corporation. Snow, ice, freezing rain, all falling from the sky, giving people a difficult time. From icy roads to white fields, everywhere in this area has been covered, causing some people a tough time to get by. Owner and operator of Chick-fil-A on State Street, Darren Stockton, said the weather has had a negative impact on our sales. We've had to close early some nights and open later because of ice on the roads. While Chick-fil-A has had a negative impact from the winter weather, it has had a positive impact on the grocery industry.
When the winter comes, it affects Kroger big time. We end up having lots of sales. Everybody comes in and there's a rush to get groceries, ice, things like that, so in case they get stuck in their homes and they can't get out, they have to come to Kroger. It's also hard on us with our employees because they have to call in or things like that if they can't get here.
It seems that the grocery industry is the only one that the weather has given a positive impact. The school corporation has suffered deeply from the winter weather.
We're kind of happy to be back, but it's a real problem in the fact that we've had to reschedule a lot of things. We've had issues with various and sundry meetings being redone, and just the loss of instructional time is the big deal. We've had 9 snow days and 7 delays and 1 early dismissal. And the time that we lose on the delays, we don't make up. It's just gone. So yes, it's been big this year.
Both industries and corporations aren't the only ones who have opinion on the winter weather. Out of a survey of 200 students, 63% say they have not liked the weather, while 37% don't mind it at all. But why have we had a strong winter compared to those in the past few years? Meteorologist Jeremy Capel from WDRB explains our change in the winter.
You know, in our science we do like to point fingers at indicators and things that say, well, this is the reason it's cold, or this is the reason it's warm. Oftentimes we look at La Nina or El Nino, we look at NAO, which is the North Atlantic Oscillation. That was a big factor in our weather late last year. But really, both of those have been quiet. El Nino, La Nina, pretty much in its neutral phase. It's a little colder than normal, so a weak La Nina typically doesn't affect our weather very much. And the blocking pattern that we observed for much of last year, especially late last year, hasn't really been there. So looking deeper into it, we discovered a pattern of rigid upper-level high pressure that had developed over the western United States. And this started developing back in November and December. And you know how dry it's been out there from, you know, if you've been paying attention to the news, they've been experiencing an exceptional drought. There is a very high correlation between that drought, that upper ridge that's responsible for the drought on the west coast, and the cold and sometimes snowy weather that we've been seeing here.
Meteorologist Capel also explains what seasons this winter will affect and why it will affect it in the way it will.
It will have an effect on the spring. And we know this because we've seen springs in the past where if you have a mild winter, your spring comes in fast and you could get severe weather early. We had that last year, we had it the year before. Remember the March 2nd, 2012 event. That was the 3rd severe weather event of the season. It was very early in the season. We know how severe that became. But a mild winter lends itself to warm waters over the Gulf of Mexico. And so because we've had such a cold winter across the eastern U.S., that has helped to cool the waters over the Gulf of Mexico, in my opinion. That's going to lend itself to a later start to the active spring period.
But what will we expect in the upcoming months? Meteorologist Capel explains what the WDRB weather team believes what is coming our way.
Next few months, I do see a pattern change that's occurring right now, and you don't feel it outside yet, but it's in the upper winds. There's a lot of storms that are now hitting the west coast. That ridge that we were talking about earlier has broken down, and so they're seeing a more typical wintertime pattern for Northern California, Washington, and Oregon. Lots of rain, mountain snows for them, lots of wind as well. Well, what that's going to do for us is that's going to turn our jet stream winds around. They were kind of a pipeline down from the north into the eastern United States. Now they're going to go more what we call flat or zonal, which means that it's going to give us an opportunity to warm up a bit. But what we're going to see is some ups and downs, some quick ups and downs here in the weeks to come. It won't be as cold as it has been, but there's still that potential of some quick hitting wintry type systems.
Now the brighter side of all this is that we only have a few weeks left of winter. The only thing we don't know is what will come in those times. Reporting from Coastal High School, I'm Dr. Playlock, FC Backman Reviews.